The last 24 hours have been pretty wild when it comes to Trump's world. We talked about already this moment from his press conference at Trump Tower.
I disagree, but I will say this. I believe I will be able to make a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky quite quickly.
But what does that look like? What does that look like? What does that?
I don't want to tell you what that looks like.
He cannot provide specifics. We already talked about that, but just to sort of build the context of this segment. And he doesn't really bother to make clear even what his priorities are whenever he talks about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. All he'll say is, it never would happen, never would happen, never providing an explanation as to how he would have prevented it from happening. And then that he'll get peace, but not explaining what that means. And as you may have seen, but I want to dive into a few different parts of this from the day between Zelensky and Trump. Trump met with President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. And what really illustrates some of the points that I'm trying to make is what we'll get to later in the segment, which is a comparison between Vice President Harris's remarks standing alongside Zelensky and Trump's remarks standing alongside Zelensky. And then we'll also talk about the reaction that I've seen from MAGA that is crazy because they're very anti-Ukraine. But here's Trump saying, I have a really good relationship with Putin, and Zelensky makes a good point. I'd appreciate if you'd have a relationship with me too that's better.
So we have a very good relationship, and I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have, I see. Yeah, but you know, it takes two to tango.
And he was finishing off saying there, it takes two to tango. Well, actually, it takes one when one person has started a war and one person could stop a war. It takes one person when the only reason this war is going on in Ukraine is because of Putin deciding to invade. At any point, he could just stop the invasion and peace. If you enjoy this show, please do click that subscribe button. Easy, free, simple, but makes all the difference. Back to the video. And as I mentioned while I was filling in for David on the David Pakman show, I mentioned that so that if there are certain stories you feel like I'm not covering today on this show, it's probably because I talked about there. I don't want to double up. But the reason why Vice President Harris stands so strongly for supporting Ukraine, not getting ourselves directly militarily involved with Russia, but instead just giving aid to Ukraine, is because we've seen the history of the last couple decades have been Putin showing if he's given territory that he wants to take over, then he's just going to wait a little while and then seek more. So with some of the MAGA folks acting like there's this really great alternative where Putin's just given some things, all right, you can take up to this line and then we have peace, don't seem to acknowledge that obviously that would not only be a violation, as I already mentioned again in the other show's coverage, of Ukraine's sovereignty, would be taking away from Ukrainian people. It also would just be temporary, and then we're going to see him go for more. Inevitable, he would go for more. And the way that you prevent it in the short term and in the long term is by a defense by Ukraine that discourages Putin from trying to obtain more and discourages him from believing he can even plausibly, logistically go on to achieve his goals. Here's Trump while he's standing next to someone whose citizens are dying every single day, who's defending the very existence of his country. Trump rambles more about his first impeachment.
And I will say I have had a great relationship. It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax, just a Democrat hoax, which we won.
And you can notice that Zelensky looks noticeably, visibly uncomfortable.
One of the reasons we won it so easily is that when the president was asked, it was over a phone call with the president, and he said he could have grandstanded and played cute, but he didn't do that. He said, President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. He said it loud and clear, and the impeachment hoax died right there. He could have said, well, I don't know, I don't know. And I never even told you this, to be honest, but he was like a piece of steel. He said President Trump did nothing wrong. We had a very nice call. He congratulated me on his victory. He just won. I remember that. He could have played cute, and he didn't play cute. And so I appreciated that. So we have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President...
Think about how demented that is. How twisted. All Trump can think about in this world is himself. And so, in standing in front of the world, his focus and what he wants to give time to and why he feels like he has a good relationship with Zelensky is only because of him. What about having a good relationship with Zelensky because we as the United States stand against this invasion for Ukraine's right to sovereignty and understand strategically why it's important that we do so? But no, it's always about Trump. And then think about the world seeing this. I've seen a bunch of people mention that this is really humiliating, that he's one of our country's two major candidates for president. Please, please, let's not elect him again, because we'll have to deal with this for 4 years, him standing on the world stage and being humiliating. And Zelensky has to be sort of kind to him, because if Trump does become president, Zelensky's going to need to have a good relationship with Trump. And before getting to the MAGA reaction, they also had a Fox News interview after they met.
You envision is fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I mean, I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has his own ideas, but it has to be fair.
This war shouldn't be started, and I think that the problem that Putin killed so many people, and of course we need to do everything to pressure him to stop this war, and he's on our territory. That is the most important to understand. He's on our territory, and how to stop the war, to pressure him as we can, as we can. We have to do it.
And do you think the U.S. is the best?
U.S. is the leader. U.S. is the leader of support. U.S. is the leader in the world, and of course we value the support of the United States. We're thankful to the United States people of America, and of course we understand that United States can be the leader through any negotiation. You know that we have the peace summit, and we want to organize the second one, and we count on this.
I know you're both in a rush. Last question. Will there be another meeting in the near future between you?
Could very well happen, but I think the president said it the best. This is a war that should have never happened. It should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened. It's a shame, but this is a war that should have never happened, and we'll get it solved. It's a complicated puzzle, very complicated puzzle, but we'll get it solved, and people get on with their lives. Too many people dead. Too many beautiful cities. I've seen those cities. They're so beautiful, and they, I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible.
You have to come, by the way, to see our city.
I will. It's a beautiful country. Beautiful weather. Beautiful everything.
Yeah, and we know Biden's big visit to Ukraine is not going to be something Trump's going to do, because Trump's terrified of his own base, and his own base hates Ukraine. Before getting to more clips, here's what I mean by that. Marcella Green posted, Trump should not meet with Zelensky. He just took another $8 billion from Biden and Kamala. Last time there was a perfect phone call, Democrats created a Russian hoax and impeached President Trump. This is all set up, and Trump will end the war day one. Trump doesn't need Zelensky. And then you have MAGA influencers like Gunther Eagleman saying he's going to get in line quickly when the ATM gets unplugged, talking about Zelensky. And then Joey Manarino saying Zelensky looks utterly miserable. He knows the days of the gravy train are about to end. Cope and seethe, you vertically challenged fool. If you disagree with how much we're sending or what we're sending, fine. What is this? What is this, though? What on earth motivates someone to be this vitriolic towards a leader of a country who, of course, is taking as much aid as he can get, because the existence of his country is on the line, citizens are being brutally killed, I don't understand it. I really don't. I've said it to you so many times. I can't even explain what the incorrect argument is because it's so irrational. Again, we disagree on specifics of the aid. Totally justified. But you disagree that Zelensky should even want to defend his country? What are you doing? And no, Trump wouldn't have peace on day one. If he had a plan for that, he'd be able to outline some part of it. And then the Donald Trump Truth Social repost account on Twitter said, it's simple. Trump wins equals the war ends.
Another meeting in the near future between you.
Oh, and that's what we already saw, but this is them walking away.
So much. Thank you very much.
And I really am not envious of Zelensky having to be respectful, because he does. But he's indicated before that he gets a Trump election would be really detrimental for Ukraine. It could cost him his country. Think about that. And we talk often about the impact domestically of a Trump victory, but internationally it is horrifying as well. Then here is a comparison between Vice President Harris's appearance with Zelensky and Donald Trump. See if you can notice a difference.
It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop.
Putin started this war, and he could end it tomorrow if he simply withdrew his troops from Ukraine's sovereign territory. Of course, he has demonstrated no intention of doing that. Instead, he continues to assault civilian infrastructure and terrorize the people of Ukraine.
Situation.
Do you believe that Ukraine should turn over some of its own land to Russia in order to end the war?
We'll see what happens.
There are some in my country who would instead force Ukraine to give up large parts of its sovereign territory, who would demand that Ukraine accept neutrality and would require Ukraine to forego security relationships with other nations. These proposals are the same of those of Putin. And let us be clear, they are not proposals for peace. Instead, they are proposals for surrender, which is dangerous and unacceptable.
So we have a very good relationship, and I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President.
And then a lot of this you've seen before, so I'll stop it there. Even though it's a political calculation, it is a mistake on the world stage. It is a motivator for Putin to have the hope of a weak Trump in office. Meaning, if we had all of our ducks in a row and Trump had any rationality, both candidates would be projecting strength and support for Ukraine. Because it seeming like Putin is never going to get to achieve the things that he wants to is the hope to lasting peace, is the hope for a peace deal that actually is just. But Putin is going to be very pumped about continuing this war when he knows that if the election goes one way, he may get everything that he could dream of. And it wouldn't stop there, remember. That's what we're talking about. Not just peace or the prospect of peace or war now, but long standing. Which direction are we going to go in the long term? And all Trump can say is, I'd just end it. I'd end it. And then Harris actually is able to explain what her stance is comprehensively, as she did at those public remarks. Big difference. Big difference between the two candidates. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show by clicking that join button below. If you're thinking, sheesh, Luke did a whole show and bonus show on David Pakman's channel and his own, I gotta support that guy. You can do it by, like I said, clicking that join button.